Привет всем! This is the video for ACP2-02 for Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin for the poem Телега жизни, and in this video we're doing the second set of 4 lines. Before we get started looking especially at those, let's read through the whole poem and try to remember what you've learned about the first 4 lines. Хоть тяжело подчас в ней бремя, телега на ходу легка, и мшик лихой седое время, везет не слезет с облучка. С утра садимся мы в телегу, мы рады голову сломать, и, презирая лень и негу, кричим «Пошел!». Но в полдень нет уж той отваги, порастросло нас нам страшней, и коса горы и овраги, кричим «Полегче, дуралей!». Катит по-прежнему телега, под вечер мы привыкли к ней, и дремля едем до ночлега, а время гонит лошадей. So now let's go back to our lines for today. С утра садимся мы в телегу, мы рады голову сломать, и, презирая лень и негу, кричим «Пошел!». And returning to our first line, с утра садимся мы в телегу. You may be able to remember from the last video when we talked about the preposition с can be followed by either instrumental or genitive. In this case, утра is the genitive of утро, meaning morning. So, с now means from morning. We know it means from because it's followed by the genitive. If it had been followed by the instrumental, it would mean with. This is followed by the verb садимся, which is to sit down. So from morning, we sit down. And I know this is we here, not only because muy follows it, and that is the pronoun for we, but also because of the way the verb is conjugated. In English, our verb conjugations are a little more unclear, but in Russian, we could have left out the muy and known what we were doing just by the way we say the verb. So, from morning, we sit down, в телегу. If you've studied prepositional case, you know that v is a preposition that can be followed by prepositional case to mean in, as in a location, as in I study in the library, or I am in the building. But like s at the beginning of the line, we can follow it with different cases and have it carry different connotations. So here, v is followed by the accusative case. It's accusative because телега has changed the last letter to an u, which is the common feminine noun ending in accusative. So в телегу, v plus the accusative case means it's a direction. So v here carries the connotation of into the cart, carriage, or coach, however, whichever word appeals to you most. So from morning, we sit down into the carriage. And the second line, мы рады голову сломать. Мы again is we. Рады is a short form adjective in the plural meaning glad. So we are glad or we are happy. Голову сломать. This phrase is an idiom. Ломать голову. Slomat is the perfective form. It means to break, but when paired with голову, it means to puzzle over or to rack one's brains over. And the way you would say over would be nад, the preposition nад, plus the instrumental case. But that's not a part of this line. It's not in the poem. It's just a little something to expose you to. But in any case, in this way, he's saying we're happy to puzzle over things. And we will be able to explain this more thoroughly when we see how the rest of the poem is told. But at the moment, what he's saying is we're happy to face intellectual challenges. The third line is и презирая лень и негу. И means and, Презирая looks like an adjective, but it is in fact a gerund, or an adverbial participle. Презирать means to despise or hold in contempt or disdain. So what are we holding in contempt? We're holding lien и негу. Lien is laziness, and from this term we get ленивый, an adjective meaning lazy. And the second term here is негу, which is нега. In the accusative case, it's the direct object. Нега is comfort, prosperity, contentment, or bliss. But these words all hold a very positive connotation in English, especially bliss, and they sound too good for what we are trying to convey. I think a good English equivalent would be settling. That's the comfort and the contentment. So disdaining laziness and settling, or just being content. Кричим «Пошел!» We shout «Пошел!», which is a very interesting word in Russian. It literally means he walked away, or the masculine subject walked away, because it can be I as well. It's in the past tense. He or I have left. You can say пошла if you're a female. It's a very common way to say I'm leaving or I've got to go. It's not unusual to say. It is slightly more colloquial and informal. I wouldn't advise it for leaving a meeting in a formal way. But if you are getting up from a table and you're mentioning something to your friend, you've got to go, you can just say пошел or пошла to mean I'm leaving. The closest thing that we say in English, which is like this, is saying I'm gone or I'm out of here, which holds the same connotation of I've already left, but you are there to say it. So it's slightly confusing, but if you have some friends to practice this with, do it next time you get up from the lunch table. Everything will be fine. So let's read through this whole section one more time and talk about what we learned in the first 4 lines and where this poem looks like it's going. So these lines are: С утра садимся мы в телегу, мы рады голову сломать, и презирая лень и негу, кричим «Пошел!». From morning we sit down into the cart. We're happy to puzzle over intellectual matters. And, disdaining laziness and contentment, we shout, "Let's go!" So if you've recently watched the first video on the first 4 lines, you remember being introduced to the cart, which is time itself. The poem is called Телега жизни, the cart or carriage or coach of life. And the coachman, as we learned in the first 4 lines, is time. So the morning that we're talking about in this set of 4 lines is our youth, our childhood, and our impatience that comes with childhood. The next video we'll be doing on the next 4 lines is more about middle age, and then the last is about the end of life. I only bring this up because I know that to understand this poem, it's nice to be able to have the whole thing under your belt, but going through it as slowly and as thoroughly as we do makes it hard to see where the poem is going. So now that that's been explained, feel free to email if you have any questions, and thank you for listening. Спасибо!